Good afternoon. My name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is Flabonga Monthrothacube. And with me today, I've got co-host
Tony Stevenson
and our fantastic guest,
Brandi Johnson.
Hey, Brandi, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I need to ask you the obvious questions first. This is a question I always forget to ask because we kind of know each other already. Already on who you are, Brandi Johnson. What do you do and where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the CMO and co-founder of a company called CoachBar. CoachBar developed two software products. The one that will be most familiar to your audience is AppVentory, and I am located in hopefully sunny Colorado, although it is still dark outside. So I can't predict the weather yet.
Yes, thank you for doing this at 4/5 a.m. in the morning.
No problem. Anything for you guys.
Anything for us. Much appreciated. Would you like a silly question or a serious question first?
I've been awake an hour. You can hit me with either.
Okay. Why don't you drink coffee?
I don't like the taste. I have tried coffee so many times. I actually even worked across the street from this lovely local coffee shop for years. And I would go in and I would read the message boards of all of their fancy sugar, cream, everything laden drinks that sounded more like a milkshake. And they would be like, I'll make it for you. I'll convince you to be a coffee drinker. If I could taste the coffee, I didn't like it. There's something about the level of bitterness that no amount of sweetener has been able to overtake. I've tried it dozens of times. But my husband also does not drink coffee. And so when we have guests who come to visit, we don't own a coffee pot. So when we have guests who come to visit, I borrow the Keurig from my mom and buy them Keurig pods and send them home with them because no coffee in the house.
Fair play. That's a very great answer.
It is a
Tony,
pretty good answer. So yeah.
Can I tweak your question? I'm gonna try and tweak it.
Go
on. So Tony,
I actually had a tweak of the questions. I want you to ask it, and then I will honestly tell you whether it's the same tweak because I have a feeling it might be. But also, just before you do that, that's weird because we had Owen on, also from AppVentory. He didn't drink coffee either. I'm thinking maybe there's some sort of conspiracy going on at AppVentory.
Yeah, the whole CoachBar team. AppVentory.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about if I have seen anyone else on the team drink coffee.
Interesting.
I'll post it up in the general channel today, and I'll post back.
Please do. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so Tony's question is usually, if you're a coffee drinker, your artisanal local coffee shop is usually the best one you want to go to. Made for you. They know your stuff. Really good beans. Blah blah blah. That's where you'd always go to. But if you're out and about, you might have to grab a Starbucks, Costa, Nero, whatever. What would your choice be if you have to go to a commercial chain? Obviously, that doesn't work for you. So my thought would be, right, if you're out and about and you want to grab a burger, you're going to go to a good place, right? You've got maybe a spot that you might like. But if you're going to have to go to a fast food chain to get your burger fix, your McDonald's, your Wendy's, your Sonics, which one are you going to? How do you rate it? What's the top one out of the fast food burger chains?
Okay, well, let's clarify. Is Five Guys considered a fast food burger because it's not drive-through?
I will allow it because it is quite quick. It's expensive.
Okay. So Five Guys is top.
Five Guys, yeah.
Second is Wendy's. Third is Sonic. But it also depends on if I am more focused on the beverage or the burger because Sonic
purely burger.
Beverages.
Purely the burger.
Wins. So
do you guys have White Castle in Colorado?
There might be one. Not close to where I am. The big one that recently came in where we are is In-N-Out.
This is what going to be my question is that seems to be one that has transcended the Atlantic for me. So I quite take more than a passing interest in watching videos of people eating food, particularly burgers. In-N-Out, is that good? Because it doesn't I look at it and I'm like, looks all right, but it doesn't look like it seems like it's worth the hype just from visuals.
Well, I mean, it's a good burger. I would, I think it is a bit overhyped. And so because we have where I am, the only In-N-Out in quite a range, the line is always atrocious. And so it's not a burger that I'm willing to wait 20 to 25 minutes in my car for. Or wait for a table in a fast food restaurant for.
No, that's Just yeah.
So it's a fine burger, and it would be ranked if it didn't have the other caveat.
Interesting. What's there's one that's doing the rounds as well, this guy that I follow, who just basically just walks around like fried chicken shops eating beige chicken, which I could see as a great like career choice. But he went to America, and they have this one that has like a full cup of sauce. Do you know, I can't remember the name of it, the name's dropped out of my head, because it's Dave's Hot Chicken, which has just landed over here, which is quite a big one, and then there's this other one, and it has like a full cup of sauce.
Oh, I haven't seen that. We're not big.
It's gonna be bugging me now for some time. I'm gonna have to work out what it was and remember it, because I can't think of the name. If anyone in the comments knows what I'm talking about, then
got to give a shout out to Patty O'Neill. I can't remember where she's in the States, but she's in the States as well. Hey, Patty. Hi, Tony, Dale, Tony, and Brandi. Well. Love In-N-Out burgers. Thank you, Patty. We like Patty. She's awesome. All right, serious questions. Why do you do marketing?
I do marketing because it was going to take me too many years working in a lab to make an impact on the world. There is your oddball answer.
Please expand. So what lab would you be working, like chemistry, biology, physics? What were you doing?
Absolutely. So when I was in finishing high school, I wanted to go into genetic counseling and genetic engineering, but that was very early days. That was 99. People can look at babies. I can't hide that. So that was very early days for those things. So when I went into university, I had the opportunity to work in a lab that was studying genetics. And while it was super interesting, I hated the lab experience. I just
Why?
What about it? It might have been like the lab that I was in, but it was just boring. And like the people that I was with were like, fill this pipette. And like, even the presentations of like the research that they were working on, I was just like, I can't imagine doing this for 12 years before I'm actually in a position where I'm impacting people's lives. Because I wanted to do like prenatal and neonatal genetic research and it was a crazy thing. So I was just miserable. And so I talked to my mom and said, like, this isn't, I don't know that I want to do this anymore. So we talked around it a lot and landed on marketing as a way that you could help people, because the next best thing was helping people really like achieve some of their goals and their dreams. And so there's a couple ways that you can do that through marketing. And I loved reading and writing, and it was more profitable than being a writer or a literature professor. So here I am.
Cool. Fair play. Jumping back to the comments again very quickly. Matthew Turner. Apparently, Carl's Jr. is launching in the UK shortly. Is that any good? Is that the one you're thinking of, Tony? Was it Carl's Jr.?
No, it's called Raising Cane's. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Raising Cane's is delicious. The full cup of sauce thing I have not seen, but Raising Cane's is my local beige chicken of choice. But I have not seen the whole cup of sauce, but it makes sense because their sauce is top notch. Their custom sauce. So, and for Carl's Jr., if that is like the burger place, it's not one of my top favorites in my region. But even
not ranked.
It is not ranked. No.
Really like that as a concept.
Not ranked. We're going to lose all our future sponsorships by dissing all these companies. Like, we've already lost a Starbucks endorsement, haven't we? Let's be honest.
Well, I know, because I'm a proponent of Starbucks. That's my generic coffee chain of choice. So I fly their good flag. Costa is the one that I would avoid. But I'm not sure they're our sponsorship demographic anyway, mate. So
unlikely.
In Vegas in March. It's legit. I assume that was legit.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Yeah. What is strange to me is that Marcus Batson hasn't said hello yet, which is weird. So I know Sam Green's not here, but yeah, regular listeners, tune in, say hello. Because we got no idea who's listening. So
we'll get an anonymous comment at some point about that's James Sundin.
It's James Sundin. Sales.
Yeah. Speak of his name and he shall appear.
You know, that's like the last time when we were like, oh, that's James, and there was all those comments coming. It wasn't James at all. It was somebody No, it wasn't. No, somebody completely
Oh,
random that I had no connection with or no knowledge of at all. So yeah, we have this a mutual friend of ours and a friend of the show called James Sundon, and he is Mr. Sales. He does a whole bunch of things, and I'm sure he'd be heartbroken if we called him Mr. Sales. But we have this theory that if you say sales 3 times, James appears in the comments. So this seems
he's a very good salesperson.
reliably.
That's the
Very
thing,
good.
though.
Yeah,
Very good at it. He's very good at it.
very good at it.
Very sincere. What is it? Oh, that's a good thing as well. Okay, so often in businesses, sales and marketing can sometimes butt heads. In your opinion, as a marketing expert aficionado, why do they sometimes butt heads? I have my own opinions on this, but people are here to listen to you, not to me.
Yeah. So I think one of the things is often when I see sales and marketing kind of butting heads, there can be a misalignment of goals where marketing is working towards specific lead generation goals or demand or even branding awareness goals, whereas sales has closing goals. And so when those goals are out of alignment, that is often when I see that butting of heads and unrealistic expectations. So for example, years ago, I worked at a media company and my job was lead generation for our webinars, white papers, ebooks, etc. To our using our marketing subscriber audience. Well, the sales team would go and they would say, I sold this webinar with a 300 lead package for voice over IP faxing, fax over IP technically. And I was like, cool, we've already sold 3 of these this year and we haven't fulfilled the lead goal for the first one. So like we've now set unrealistic expectations for that customer that we're going to be able to get them 300 new leads when it's 2005 and nobody cares about fax over IP right now.
Yeah.
So when you have that misalignment, you guys are going to butt heads. And so whether that is like in that scenario, it was a misalignment between setting the customer's expectations and sales and what like our marketing team could deliver for them, or as an in-house group, it's just a misalignment of expectations and goals. So.
Okay. Apologies to any viewers. I'm having a bit of lag. Hopefully it's not affecting the stream too much. It actually might be on my end. My computer's saying my signal is low, so apologies, guys. If I drop off, I've not just left you.
Don't you worry, mate.
Yeah.
I delivered a webinar last week for Free Agent, and for the first time in like a decade of working on Zoom predominantly, my computer failed in the middle of the webinar. And it wasn't even a connection issue. It was the actual computer, like, just went all like pixelated and I couldn't click on anything. But like the format of the webinar was Tony talks for a bit and then we get into the conversation for like 40 minutes of the webinar. But it was like at the beginning bit where I was still talking. So it wasn't even like I teed up a question and I could just disappear off. And I literally had to come out of the webinar, sleep my computer. That didn't work, so I had to log my computer off completely and restart it, and fortunately it came back to life again and I could rejoin. And shout out to Troy who had jumped in to fill while I was off. But yeah, we had like several hundred people on the webinar that had to endure me disappearing for 5 minutes in the middle of the webinar, which was quite amusing. And yeah, I didn't go to pieces, and we carried on and it was still a success. But yeah, it's never happened to me before, so don't worry, mate. It's been it'd be nice to be on the other side of you, somebody else disappearing and having to be able to, you know, give back to the internet gods.
Brandi, have I asked you my biscuit/cookie question?
No.
I thought I had, but okay, I'll ask you now.
Well, I mean, you haven't asked me in front of a live studio audience, so let's go.
If you were a cookie, what kind of cookie would you be that accurately portrays your personality and why, but don't just pick your favorite cookie?
Are you familiar with monster cookies?
I'm not, but please.
No, but they sound great. Yeah.
Okay, so a monster cookie is essentially a lot of cookies rolled into one cookie. Okay. So you would start with like a peanut butter cookie base, but then you could add in nuts, chocolate chips, candy bits, like M&Ms, And so you have like this variety of flavors that are part of your cookie. So I would be a monster cookie, not because I am a monster, although my 8-year-old would probably disagree at that time, but because I am multi-passionate and I have a lot of crazy things that people do not expect me to enjoy or have be a part of my personality. So with a monster cookie, every bite tastes a little different because you might get more chocolate chip in this one, more M&M in that one, etc. So
with a monster, do you add those ingredients pre-bake then? That's why you're making it, right? Yeah. Okay. I had it in my head like a cookie and then just other stuff being thrown on top of it. So that's interesting. Yeah. I'm not sure we have that concept in the UK, but I like it.
Well, business idea, the monster cookie shop.
I think Americans do snacks better than the UK. And I know, because like I say, I'm generalizing here because it's a bigger country and you can't, different states do things differently. But like the snack game in America is on point. Like you can get almost anything you want, and it's always delicious. What are your thoughts?
Well, we probably do the obesity game better than you do.
Oh no! I've looked the stat up. We are catching up in terms of per capita. Like we're on par. Like British people can no longer tease American people about weight because we're just as bad. Honestly.
Okay.
Like we've caught up.
Well, we were delighted when we visited for Daz. The how much healthier we felt eating there. But apparently it was misleading.
How do this is a slightly off-topic question, maybe this is what happens on the show. How do like events in the US in the accountancy field compare to like DAS and Accountex and stuff?
I have not been to an accounting show in the US yet. I have only been to accounting shows in the UK.
Oh, okay, so well then.
yeah. I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, I got to see Dale. I got to have breakfast by a pond. It was lovely. But yeah, my first accounting event in the US is Scaling New Heights. That is coming up in like 20 days. So that'll be my first accounting show. So I can come back in, a couple of months and give you my comparison.
You are welcome back anytime, and we would love your comparison. Honestly, that'd be great. Have you been to any American accounting shows, Tony?
No. The company that I work for, Free Agent, is a bookkeeping vendor in the UK space, but we're only UK focused. So like Xero's and QuickBooks and Free Agent, we sit in that space. And therefore there's no requirement for me to do anything in the US professionally yet. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. And I haven't been to the States personally for a long time, actually. Like 12 years ago, I think was the last time I went to the States for anything other than a layover. Spent 10 or 12 hours in LAX airport, which was I was like LAX airport would be like massive and grand, a bit like Changi Airport, but it wasn't. Maybe it was just the hangar that we were in particularly wasn't impressive, but it was a slow layover, that one was. But yeah, I haven't been to the States for a long time actually. It's just made me realise that because I have been a few times in my life, but been a while.
I realized I fibbed to you guys.
Say again?
I realized I fibbed. I have been to a US accounting show.
You fibbed?
I fibbed. I just we exhibited at XeroCon Nashville last year. But because it was like so separated in terms of like timing from everything that we've been doing this year. I will say, I think that in comparison, the UK accounting shows that I've been to and I've seen are much larger and grandiose than that was. But that could also be a function of the fact that it was XeroCon and Xero has a smaller footprint in the US. I'm scheduled to go to Intuit Connect, which is in Vegas in the fall. So that'll probably be a better comparison, but it was a much smaller show than the XeroCon was a much smaller show. Great audience, great people, things like that. But it was a smaller event than the ones we've seen there. So I apologize for fibbing. I needed to correct myself.
I have a question.
No worries.
Which is a non-professional question. but also not a ridiculous one as well. I can't remember who it was. Might have been, was it Owen, possibly? Or have I frozen? Can you hear me?
I got you.
I think I froze.
Good.
Sorry, it was me.
Maybe it was Dale.
Right.
Who was it? It might have been Luke Farron, or it might have been Owen who raised this as a question, but it was essentially like, what's the favorite place that you've traveled to in your life?
Oh.
I think that was an Owen question.
I think it might have been an Owen question. I think we asked it to Luke, and his was Kilimanjaro.
Wow. This is all putting me to shame. I have not traveled nearly as much as I would have liked. So my top two are probably Napa, Sonoma Valley in California. For like just very like laid back, no pressure, very calm kind of thing. And then the family and I loved our trip to London and the surrounding areas for the history, architecture that you certainly do not get in Colorado. We get Purple Mountains majesty, but there's very few castles, a couple, but not many.
Are there bears in Colorado?
Yeah, gotta be. There's got to be bears in Colorado, surely.
Oh yeah. We had one outside our house a couple of years ago.
You say it so casually. Is it because you guys are used to them, or like you know how to deal with them, or you have guns that can fend them off?
Well, so like there are, first of all, we don't get them in our area often. I say this very casually. We had a baby bear who like wandered across a natural area and hung out in a tree for a couple hours and then meandered farther into town and ate somebody's pears off their pear tree. So
sounds like a good day. Like sounds like a really good day,
right?
Like a Winnie the Pooh kind of day.
Yeah. Is it a black bear or a grizzly bear?
It was a black bear.
Okay, because they are substantially different in size, aren't they? Black bears and grizzly bears.
Yeah, and honestly, like because it was a baby, like it was pretty small. In most circumstances, like the bears want the food and you're not the food. Is kind of like how we've been taught. Like, so unless you're like out hiking crazy out in the woods kind of thing, they're not coming after you. Like if they are around in a normal area, like let them have the garbage, let them have the car.
Yeah.
Just like a moose, right?
The burger like, over.
Like, cool, that's yours now. I'll be over here. And that's a pretty safe bet.
That's why I like living in the UK. I am the top of the food chain. Very few things can kill me here. Another person, maybe.
My wife and I are both very big wildlife nerds, and were, before we met each other as children, like hugely interested in natural history. And we went traveling, and we were in Australia. We decided to go. We were up in the Northern Territory on the East Coast, and we went. I can't remember, wasn't it Port Douglas? Was it something like that? And we were going to have a look for the local bird they call a cassowary, which is like a kind of, for anyone that's not seen one, it's like basically like a really, really big turkey with a blue head. And they're extremely rare. There's only about 1,500 of them left in the wild.
Is that the one that makes like the machine gun kind of noise? Like it's like super loud.
Oh, I don't know, but they are like giant.
Like
so
really
yeah, and dangerous. So if they're like cornered, they can do quite a lot of damage to you. So we went to this kind of like boardwalky thing where you like paid to go in, and we were broke travelers. So we said to the lady, "Look, just honestly, is there much chance of us seeing a cassowary?" And she said, "Look, because you got to pay $30 to go in." So we were like, she's like, "There's a boardwalk just like 500 meters up the road, which is exactly the same bit of wood. There's no fences or anything, but you don't have to pay for it. You can just go and walk around it. And there's about 1/20th of the amount of people. They tend to like people very much. So like, go try there first. And you've got just as much chance, probably better, of seeing one than if you come through the little boardwalky bit in here." So we're like, okay, fine. Wandered up, walked round the loop, didn't see anything. Came back round to the start. And my wife's like, right, let's go and have another look. Started walking up, and there was a little like a path that veered off the path. And we both, without speaking, just turned and walked off, basically like into the forest. And we were just kind of wandering up, and you could see some people. There was a little bit of a path, but it was like a trodden path, not the boardwalky bit that we walked through. And you could see some people kind of had done the same thing and were off in the distance. And as we were walking up, they were coming towards us, and we were going towards them. And suddenly there was a bit of a rustling in the bushes, and I was like, no. And out the bush came this cassowary with 2 baby cassowaries, and they're even more aggressive when they've got babies with them. So they said, if you get like kind of, you know, if you see one, like don't get in its way and try and get a tree between yourself. So we hid behind this tree, and this cassowary walked in front of us with its 2 babies, as the other people were kind of like sort of without realizing it, because they didn't know it was there, chasing it and its babies down the path towards us. So we stood there and it just walked past us about, I don't know, maybe 10 feet away from us, and we just like, and then we were like, let's go back and say thank you to the woman after this amazing wildlife experience. So we went back to the place to say, like, thank you so much. Like, yeah, that was a once in a lifetime experience. And there was another one in the car park at the place again. And there was this kind, I think they were like a German family, and they obviously didn't understand. So these things are like, they can kick through a car door. They've got these enormous, great big feet that like they'll rear up and go at you if they're backed into a corner. And it was in the car park, sort of tucked in between some trees. And they obviously had seen it and were like, what the hell's this? And their kid was about, I think he was maybe about 8.
No.
Didn't speak very good English. And he was like going up to this bird that was taller than him. And we were there like, no, like stop, he's gonna get seriously hurt. And they're just like, oh, look at this massive chicken, you know. And like he was really lucky. This bird obviously wasn't in the mood for it, and just kind of like sort of disappeared off and managed to find its way out of the thing. And we went back in to say thank you to the lady, and they was, oh great, and radio to people to let them know that they were up there, because there's only like 1,500 of them left in the wild. And the next day we went on a trip to go out and see some saltwater crocodiles. And the guy on the boat was like the instructor bloke who was taking us out to see the crocodiles, and was really interested in his wildlife. And we told him about our experience, and he said, honestly, guys, you don't know how lucky you are. I said, I've lived here for 18 years, and I saw my first cassowary 3 months ago. We literally walked in, saw 4 of them in the space of about 20 minutes, having paid nothing, and got like 10 feet away from like this and 2 babies. And the guy was like into his wildlife. Like his job was to show people wildlife, and he'd only seen one 3 months ago for the first time. So yeah, that is one of my dangerous wildlife spotting stories, which was quite cool.
My worst encounter is a badger. I was 14 and doing my paper round. They're more vicious than people think. They're not nice. We need to ask some business questions. Brandi, yes. What's an AppVentory or AppVentory?
What is an AppVentory?
Yeah, what is it?
AppVentory is a tech discovery and management tool for business leaders. Okay. So it is a tool that you can use on your own business, or you can use it for client businesses to understand what technology is being paid for and used within the organization. And then you can make strategic decisions about your technology usage moving forward. So you may identify apps that are no longer needed, that are redundant. You may identify better opportunities to integrate and optimize your apps, use apps more efficiently across your organization. We've done all of those types of things with AppVentory.
Cool. How much would it cost me if I were a business owner?
AppVentory as a business owner is $400 per year, which honestly, in most businesses, after you connect your Ledger account and your single sign-on, like your Google Workspace or Microsoft Workspace, as soon as that data starts coming in, chances are you're going to find a subscription or two that you're like, oh, I totally forgot I was subscribed to Peacock, or Netflix, and you're going to find those savings pretty quickly and make that back. Cool. If not in savings, then in efficiencies. But yeah, so for a traditional business, it's $400 per year. We have an advisor program. So if you are like a firm and you want to try it out, you can actually use it on your firm for free and for one client for free with the advisor plan. And then if you have professional tech business advisory services, there are plans for multi-client instances as well.
Whoop, whoop. I mean, I'm a little bit biased. That last one sounds great.
I think what's really interesting about AppVentory, and that is so exciting about it, is that, and I talk about this a lot when we talk about AppVentory, is so many people, and you guys will know this very well from being in business and in the roles that you have in business, is when people talk about their business, you talk about your business plan, you have a marketing plan, you have a financial plan, but like nobody is starting a business today without any type of technology. And yet we are behind the curve on thinking about how are we doing technology planning? How are we thinking about like, how is technology supporting our business? How is technology moving forward? But if you're starting up a solopreneur business, even like one of the first things that you start thinking about is like, well, do I need a website? Well, that's technology. You know, do I need a CRM? Like, am I just using a spreadsheet for my books? Like all of those types of things are starting to be part of technology planning.
Yeah.
And so that's an area that we are woefully behind, I think, as business leaders in thinking about. And so AppVentory is a tool that allows you to kind of catch up and make those plans and understand those things.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the trickiest thing about systems or workflow process, IT kind of things, is just like the pace, right? Like just, especially in fintech, every 6 months to a year, I see like 2 to 3 new apps in one particular vertical of fintech appear and approach me, and it's like, wow. And sometimes they're doing the same thing with a rebadge or a different price point. Sometimes it's a game changer. And then within 6 months to a year, again, they've added a feature and consolidated, and it's just like, it's hard keeping up. It is a full-time job. But yeah, that's one of the hardest things. So it sounds like your app could really, or your product could really help with that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's similar in the marketing tech space, right? I mean, especially with AI and everything like that, there's new tools every 5 minutes for monitoring engagement, intent measurement, content creation, repurposing, like, and identifying which ones you want to use. And as marketers, you know, we're all like, hey, come sign up for our free trial. And then all of a sudden you've got 30 things that are no longer a free trial, but they were only like $10 a month. And so like it adds up really quickly too. So that's another area where AppVentory can help. And with some of the AI stuff that we're building into that, like identifying those tools, Dale, like you were saying, whether it's in your fintech stack, your marketing stack, or whatever, that we're working on tools that help you identify overlaps too. So all 3 of these tools provide meeting recording functionality. Now you can go pick, you know, does everybody need all 3? Does one team need one because it has a specialized use case, et cetera? So that's kind of some of the behind the curtains peek at the stuff that we're working on as well.
Very cool.
It's interesting. Right? So I part of what I do, Brandi, is I'm involved with integrations at Free Agent, right?
I could see the gears turning in your head as you was talking about it. I was like,
mate, I've had tons of conversations with Owen and Doug and other people at AppVentory, and there's tons of different use cases for it that I can think of in lots of different fashions. I think it's a really vital missing piece, but I always find it fascinating how, like, if you think about how this has evolved for an accountancy practice, and you think like, you know, 10, 20 years ago, the barriers to entry were quite high in terms of like the software costs that you would have needed to sync to start a practice, right? You needed some quite expensive piece of technology to manage your accounting and tax submissions. You may have needed something to do bookkeeping, but, you know, that was, you know, maybe that was going to be Sage, and, you know, now it's obviously like SaaS, so it's subscribable on a monthly basis, which has lowered all those barriers to entry across. There was a whole then bunch of stuff that didn't exist, like proposal tools and you know, payments tools. We didn't have open banking, you know, bank feeds, all that kind of stuff, right? So there's a whole like world of stuff that didn't exist. But then I was listening to this pod the other day, and it was this fascinating concept of like, there's like human beings, and then there's an amount of information within the world, right, that is available. And sometime around 2010, they reached the exact point of like perfect level of information for human beings to be able to consume. And then obviously from that microsecond in history, we now have too much information, and our job is to weed out information, is not to acquire information, because we're now past that point where humans have got more than they need, essentially. And like, it's a similar idea of like, well, when you started, if you started trying to build an accountancy business 20 years ago, you had not much choice, but a lot of cost. Whereas now you have lots of choice, and it's much cheaper. But still, there are certain things that, you know, are necessarily priced in the right way for a single person practice that's not funded to start. So like practice management is a really good example, and why part of the reason why Johan and the gang at Engager have had such success is because they priced in a way that allowed firms to start using practice management tools from the beginning, rather than go, that's quite expensive, so I'm going to do a spreadsheet and I'm going to have various different kind of like hand crank tools, and then I'm going to have to retrofit it when I get to the point where I realized I should have paid it out in the beginning. So that concept of being able to of like having a tool that's able to give that advice at the early stage, and or any stage of the life, but particularly that setup stage where it's like, this is kind of out of the box what we think you should start with, and find the money for this because it will make your life tons easier as you move forward, I find really interesting. And to be honest, it's one of those things, when I heard it, I was like, that's weird that doesn't already exist. Like, that feels like that was a really obvious thing that somebody should have built like 15 years ago. So yeah, yep. I think it's a fascinating idea.
Time for a silly question, or maybe two. Can I try out one that's just come to me on you, Brandi? Is that cool?
Sure.
Actually, I'll totally ask it to you as well. We'll go Brandi.
Have you thought it through?
No, of course not.
Of course not.
What are the last?
That was the answer I was hoping for.
What are the last 2 or 3 songs on your playlist? You know, play on Spotify, YouTube Music. What's been kind of buzzing around in the car on the
Oh, well, so in Colorado, we recently got a law that says you cannot use your phone in the car unless it's in hands-free mode. So like you can't hold your phone. So now my 8-year-old loves to control the music in the car through Spotify on my phone. So her musical taste most recently has been Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name. Alanis Morissette, Ironic, and Geraldine by Miranda Lambert.
Nice. A shot through the heart, and you're to blame.
That's
great song.
You Give Love a Bad Name.
Tony,
again, your last 3 or couple of tracks on the playlist.
So I am listening to, I tend to just like stuff something on while I'm doing something in the gym, which I don't get to do as much as I would like. But Miles Smith is the one that's on my go-to at the moment, subbed in with Avicii and a couple of others. And Oasis, obviously I didn't get tickets, but a big fan. But when I got in the car this morning to take my daughter to nursery, I said, right, we're going to have some music on. So I put some music on, and then she was quiet for a little while. And then she said, Daddy, can you turn the music off, please? and I said, why? And she went, that's not tunes. She's 2.5, not even 2.5 yet. So that's her little catchphrase. That's not tunes if she doesn't like the music. So
Phoebe does the same to me when I start singing. Sometimes she's like, "Daddy, don't sing."
Oh yeah,
I'm like, ouch! I've got an okay singing voice. It's not, not amazing. But it's okay.
Got told the same thing this morning as well. Yeah. Went through a list of at least 5 or 6 people that did have a nice singing voice, and I was not on that list. So Daddy stopped singing.
Okay, thank you for humouring Brandi. I aware that was a question I sprung upon you, Tony. That met the threshold. It wasn't too ridiculous, right? It was.
Oh, that was great. That was great, and it's inspired me to ask. Can I intersperse with my question, and you can ask your second one? Is that all right?
Go for it. Yeah.
So this came of a little back and forth thread that Dale and I were having about spelling and mispronunciation and stuff. So, what's that word that people mispronounce or spell wrong, and you're like, inner grammar police, and you comes out and you're like, I can't bear that. Or is it just me? I don't know.
When people say specifically instead of specifically. Sorry.
Yeah,
I know you're asking Brandi first, but that comes straight to my head. I can't stand when people do that. It annoys me to no end.
It's when people mispronounce our brand. It's AppVentory. I'm just kidding.
We talked about this before we went on air, by the way, folks. It's just, yeah.
Yes, we accept AppVentory or AppVentory. Is that right? Did I say it right? I can't say it. It's crazy that you asked that, because I think in writing in particular, it's like when people misuse the theirs.
That was what this thread was about.
there.
There.
That's a really hard one for me in writing. I don't have one that comes to mind for pronunciation. I will tell you, however, the last name that I use professionally is not my legal last name anymore. This is my maiden name, Johnson, because people can say it and spell it. My married last name is Arkentaki, And nobody can ever say or spell that one, which is why I kept Johnson for professional purposes.
How is it spelled?
Arkontaky, just like it sounds.
Yeah, I can see why people might get a bit perplexed by that, though. Right.
Yeah. It's Greek, so.
Got it. All right, next silly question. Picture your most disliked TV character. Who would that be? And who would it be that you could punch in the face, get away with it, no repercussions?
Oh, my most disliked TV character.
No one's going to judge you for punching this person in the face, but like, you just want to give them maybe a slap, maybe not a punch. Maybe punch is too extreme. If you like, I can go first.
Yeah, I'll have you go first. I need a minute on this one.
So mine's the same because I've asked this a couple of times, and mine is Neelix from Star Trek Voyager, especially like his first appearance, like in the second season. He's a very clingy, kind of Weasley kind of character, and if I could just get away with it, I would.
Oh, okay. I got mine, I think. It is an unpopular one. I kind of hated Harvey in Suits.
I haven't seen Suits, but Dale looks pretty upset by that. I've never seen him do that face before.
You know what? I can see why you might not like him.
Like, he just, and it's been a while. Like, I watched Suits like a year or so ago. I did not watch the reboot, to be clear. But it just is so often he never, like, it just never felt like he was really like taking responsibility for things. He was always just kind of like passing things around, letting Donna take responsibility for things, like just kind of be a man. Like, yeah. And his conflict with Lewis always drove me crazy. So
Sam Green has finished his meeting and joined the chat. Sam Green, whoa. Not Harvey. See, Sam, I don't know if you saw my face, but that's the face I made, bro. Like, first of all, he's like the main character. Him and Mike are the main characters. Second of all, I think most guys, despite his character flaws, want to be Harvey. Right? You want to be the guy who walks in, smashes it, and be smug about it.
Yeah, I think it's the smugness. I think like you need a touch of humility for me.
Yeah, I mean, he was a good guy and good at what he does and good looking and knew that was his character. But did you watch the whole show?
Yeah.
Because like he eventually.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not a redemptive arc.
Yeah.
But, just as a whole.
There's a little, I get it. He gives off a douchebaggery vibe.
Yeah, I mean.
So you want to give him a bit of a smack.
Yeah, I mean, you could go with like classics. Like we're watching the new Daredevil right now, Daredevil Born Again. So you could go with like, I would like to punch Kingpin. I mean, for who he is, just as a flat out.
Joffrey in Game of Thrones, like again, the actor who played him, like you'd love to hate him, right? Like he was just like he played that so well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of villains out there, but I went for the unpopular opinion.
Definitely, I was shocked and appalled.
I saw.
Cool.
I quite like the question. Maybe we've done 3 in a row now of nonsensical stuff, so it might be time for a break on it. But I kind of like the question of like, something along the lines of like, what film did you dislike or not get that everybody seems to like? Do you know, like the unpopular opinion question, which I think maybe we can shelve for another time, or we can answer it now. Do you know what mine was? Mine was The Big Lebowski. And I remember like one of my mates is like really big into the whole like the whole sort of like grunge Nirvana thing, and I watched The Big Lebowski like 10 years after it came out, and I just didn't get it at all. I just couldn't understand why the dude in the dressing gown was such an iconic guy, and I was like, I kind of get it, but it just seems like just kind of yeah, fine, whatever. But like yeah, and he did say to me, he was like, I think you kind of needed to watch it sort of of the time because it was the spirit of the time at the time, and he was iconic for that era, and maybe that was just not an era that I really ever got into. But yeah, Big Lebowski was one for me.
Step Brothers. I am not a huge Will Ferrell fan. Now I like some of his other films, like The Other Guys. Great. I like him on SNL. I think he's funny, but I don't like Step Brothers at all. And I know lots of people love that movie, sorry, but I genuinely don't find it amusing at all.
That is astonishing to me.
I know.
I think it's an underrated classic. Anchorman is finest work for me, but
hasn't aged well. Again, Anchorman. If you watch it again, you'll be like, not as funny as I remember it when I was younger.
Yeah. Always the case.
Mine is probably I was never the Jim Carrey early comedy fans, like Ace Ventura, The Mask. That genre of Jim Carrey was not for me.
I get it. He's kind of like a Marmite kind of actor. Great in The Truman Show and Man on the Moon, though.
Right. Yeah. His later, like when he went like somewhat more dramatic. And I liked him as like the Riddler in the one Batman film he was in. Like good there. I just something about like the over the topness of the Ace Ventura stuff. I just tapped out.
Brandi, we've asked you a multitude of questions and you've humored us. Do you have any questions for Tony and I? It's only fair.
It's Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. You have no plans, no obligations. What are you doing?
Barbecuing.
You're just gonna just pop open the barbecue and just throw some food on?
I'm probably already grilling already, but yeah.
Yeah, it'd be already 6 hours into managing the temperature. Yeah. Dale and I are both big barbecue fans, so.
So are you smokers, or are you traditional grillers? Okay.
Both. I have several grills.
Okay. And so what do you smoke? What's your smoker specialty?
That would
have, I mean, in terms of like...
Hey, it's legal in Colorado, not legal here. All right?
On the grill.
I watch South Park. I know it's legal in Colorado. No, for me, so Christmas edition, 10 kg turkey, brine it, spatchcock it, dry rub, cherry wood. It means you have the oven ready for the rest of the Christmas dinner. And I don't usually like turkey. I will only eat, it's going to be very vain, my own turkey that I've smoked. It's the only way it still tastes juicy and succulent and has a flavor that I like. Every other turkey to me is dead in flavor. Don't bother.
Okay.
That's good. So ordinarily at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, the immediate thing that came into my mind is that I'd be an hour away from kicking off a game of rugby, because I still, despite my advancing years, do try and play rugby. But that's not every weekend. That's only maybe like 10 weekends in a year nowadays. So yeah, that is a really good question. Like if not doing what Dale's just suggested with like something on the barbecue because that he's already used that one, then like out somewhere with my wife and my daughter. I know you said you've got nothing to do, no plans, but that would probably be what I would be doing. Yeah. Watching my crazy offspring tearing around, jumping up and down, and just running everywhere, which is what she seems to do a lot of at the moment. So yeah, probably have some form of flat white in my hand. Probably at 2 o'clock. That's about my cut-off time for caffeine. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, outdoors somewhere.
Great. Dale, I'll have to tell my husband that you do the Christmas turkey, because in the US I always do the Thanksgiving turkey, and it's his favorite, but he has not smoked a turkey yet. So
it's the way forward, honestly. If you have a smoker large enough to get one, like seriously, brine it, dry rub, and just the flavor. Oh, so good.
I do. I actually have a turkey breast in the freezer that just needs to be defrosted for smoking. So we had a windstorm that came and blew our smoker over off the pad next to our house, so we had to get a new smoker for Father's Day. So
I was gonna say sad times, but a good ending. Like,
yeah.
Smoker.
Yeah.
What sort of smoker is it, Brandi?
We ended up getting a Weber smoker.
King of the grills.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a Next Grill previously, kind of as like the entry, are we going to be a smoker family? And then when the Next Grill blew away, the answer was definitively yes, we were a smoker family, so we got the Weber.
And is it an offset smoker, like a barrel one with the little chamber on the side, or is it like a traditional kettle?
Yeah, it's an offset.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining, because I would have been like, I don't know.
I think in the grilling community, I think everyone agrees that Weber is a good brand, and whilst they are a little bit expensive, they're worth the cost. I don't know this. They used to make buoys, and that's why they're rust proof.
Oh. Interesting.
I'm not sure if mine's rough proof.
They're supposed to be. That's one of their main features. They used to make buoys to go in the ocean, and the idea is that the metal and paint they use is so good that it's supposed to be rust proof.
They are very good. The case split on mine over the winter, and I'm just in a sheer act of representative laziness on my part, I haven't bought a new one yet, and it still looks pristine, having been out most of the winter. So I've had mine for 5 or 6 years now, and it is still going strong. Unfortunately, I, like my wife and I, will move house at some point in the future, and I've already laid the groundwork that I want an outside kitchen. So essentially, the dream is to have like a sort of awning arrangement that's outside, but that you can step out of the kitchen into it without having to go anywhere uncovered. So essentially, you've got a kind of like outside bit of fire cooking availability, and then, like Dale said, there'll be at least 6 different types of grills within that area in there that I can operate and just muck around and cook over fire most nights. That's the dream, but there's no point doing it until we move house, because I'll just have to redo it again. That'll just make me sad.
We need to bring it back to a serious question. So for our younger viewers, because we do have some younger viewers, Brandi, what advice would you give to, again, someone in the early 20s or late teens looking to get into marketing? Like, should they get a master's in marketing? Like, is there any particular I say subgenre, that's music, but you know what I mean, like, because there's different sectors within those slices of marketing that they should go into. What's your best career advice if you want to get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So for people who are just getting into marketing, I would say, if you're going to university, definitely make sure you take some psychology courses, because that is an area where I did not put an area of emphasis. I did marketing and technical communications, which set me up very well for the evolving world of digital marketing. I'm old, so I can say, like,
yes, because you are older than you look. I'm not going to ask you because you're not supposed to ask later, but when you told me how old you were, I was like, damn.
Yeah. I will just put it out there. I'm 44. So like my first marketing plans I wrote, like, included things like, you should have a website. Like, that was, and people were like,
mind blowing. Yeah.
So yes. So I think psychology is kind of an underrated area for understanding, like, consumer behavior, human behavior, and that's going to impact almost anything that you are doing in marketing. And I think that's going to become increasingly important as AI is turning up the noise on everything that's happening in marketing. So on the marketing side, when people are talking about AI, they're talking about faster content creation, faster content repurposing, all of that type of stuff, which means that the marketing world is going to get very noisy very quickly as we are looking at these, workflows that I was watching a video a couple of days ago where the people were using Make, and using this workflow in Make and several AI tools, they went from a keyword to a written published blog post with social media posts on 5 platforms with essentially no human intervention. So when you look at the fact that that can happen, as a marketer, on one hand, you're like, wow, like, you just streamlined, even adding human intervention, even saying, like, we need to keep the humanity in the marketing. That can somewhat replace parts of, like, the grunt labor side of things, but being able to bring that humanity, that, like, really thoughtfulness about, like, why people behave the way they do, I think is what marketing is going to need the most in the future.
I'm going to ask you a very cliche question. You've probably been asked before, and you've already somewhat answered it already, but just to reiterate and phrase it, do you think AI will ever replace marketing in its entirety, or will it always need people?
No, I think it will replace some of the tactical work that some people do. Mm-hmm. But I think the best marketing will always still have humans involved. Because, and I think, I was reading an article about, it was from Burn It Down Marketing, which I thought was such a clever brand. But he was talking about intent tools, and, like, the negative side of intent tools and the feedback loop that creates. And so I think, like, marketing's always going to need a human touch. It's always going to need this human element. And if we're just, like, leave it to the machines, we're doing a disservice to the brands and to the buyers. So
Do you think it's easy to spot AI posts or content, or do you think it's become so good you can't quite see it?
I think you can definitely see it when people are not good at prompting and they're not editing themselves. Like I use AI. I use AI to generate ideas. I use AI to tell me what I don't want to say. I think that's one of like the main strengths for me is I will have it draft something and then I'll be like, oh, no. That is definitely wrong. But sometimes you need to see what's wrong before you can make it right. So I think good prompters are getting to the point where they can make it much harder to identify. And M dashes do not just mean it's AI.
Sorry, what was that? M dashes?
Yeah, that was
M dashes. So, okay, so clearly your guys' LinkedIn feeds are very different than mine. So an M dash is the like double dash combined into like a longer dash, an EM dash. And so people are saying that an M dash is a dead giveaway that something was created by AI, that AI uses M dashes more than human writers do. But as a human writer, being married to a human writer, I can tell you M dashes have their place in writing. It can be used similar to like a semicolon.
What you've just said is one of my favorite things about doing this show. I've just learned something. I'm going to Google it afterwards to get more information, but like I didn't know what an M dash was. I now know what an M dash is, and I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to throw some M dashes into my post and tag you in it.
Okay, sounds great.
I'll have a couple of questions about this piece of like this thread. So like when you must have worked with some tremendous marketeers over the years, Brandi, like what's the thing that you see in people that makes them successful as a marketeer, like the one or two character traits that that when you look at someone and go, they got it, they'll do well, they'll end up as a CMO or whatever they want to be?
So I think one of the big ones is curiosity. So curiosity, so always learning, always being willing to try new things. And then hand in hand with curiosity is, I think, a level of humbleness that marketing and people and the world is always evolving and changing. And so if you're not if you are so in your own knowledge and your own ego about it, back to Harvey, right? That you are not able to evolve with those times, then you're going to fall behind. And I think that there are times, even I've seen people in their 20s, fresh out of school, and they come out with like this, you need a level of ego, but you need to also understand that like there's always going to be something new to learn, and be willing to test, be willing to try, be willing to fail, and be willing to get back up, because that's what a lot of what marketing is hypothesis testing, reiterating. Maybe that's why, if I come super full circle, like why my the early days in science were so helpful, because the scientific process, it applies to marketing too. So curiosity and willingness to fail are probably the two.
And like being able to remove emotion from the failure, right? Like with testing, it's hypothesis, it's not a personal reflection on me that it did work or it didn't work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Some solid advice. Thank you. I'm going to read the comment real quick from Marcus Batson. Hey, Marcus, what's good? Tony and Dale not knowing what an M dash is. Mind blown emoji. You'll see them everywhere now. Laughing emoji. Hashtag a yellow car.
Nice of you to turn up, Marcus. It's 3 minutes to 1, mate. Where have you been?
He's probably been here the whole time.
Yeah,
laying in the car, chilling.
He's our super fan. Marcus.
Also, occasionally people do work or have their lunch break. Like they've got better things to do, like get away from the screen, not listen to us. Sorry, no offense to you, Brandi. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
none taken.
This doesn't seem likely, Dale. I don't believe you.
No, yeah, FM is the world, and people should listen to it all the time.
It's the middle of the week. It's the pinnacle. The peak of the week.
This is definitely the peak of my week.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Brandi, thank you so much for joining us. Again, just for people who don't know, thank you for getting up at freaking 4 a.m. And being so alert and so awesome. Thank you for the insights you've given us. Thank you for humoring the daft questions.
Absolutely.
It's been great having you on. And if you'd like to come back again, we'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, anytime. Although At some time, I might ask for a little time zone adjustment if I pay more attention. Although now I get to go watch the sunrise. So
you get the time zone adjustment on your second appearance. You don't get it on the first.
Perfect.
Okay.
On that note, I'm going to hit end screen. Bye all to the viewers. Peace out.
Boom.